You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here on the Live Local Marketing Podcast. We're with Adam. Sir, how are we feeling today?
Billy, I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you.
That's awesome. So we'll get a little bit about Adam, and then we'll just get right into it. So Adam, he's diving into the world of B2B growth. He's founder of EOC, a fully remote multi-million-dollar agency that's transforming how companies scale through cold email. What started as a solution to Adam's own startup challenges generated over $10 million in revenue, securing meetings with giants like Apple, Disney, BlackRock, Amazon, Live Local, and has grown into proven systems that's helped over 150 companies consistently at high quality sales meetings. There you go. We have a big deal today. We have a big deal on the podcast today. All right, sir, ready for the questions?
I am ready to roll. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about how, first and foremost, talk to us about a loss that turned out to be a win.
I'd say in a lot of ways, although I sold my first startup, I like to be very, very transparent about the process, because we all see so much BS online these days.
Yeah.
Of just win after win, Lamborghini after Lamborghini, most of which is rented for the day on a credit card that they may or may not pay off every month. So I always like to be overly transparent. And my first startup, although we were acquired, it was not the successful exit that anyone dreams of when they start a business, especially one that you spend 5+ years building, investing time and money and taking a bad salary and all this stuff to try to build something. So while in some ways it was a loss, like it wasn't the exit we would have dreamed of and we wanted, it was the number one reason why I am where I am today and the business that we have today. Because there were so many bumps that any entrepreneur goes through when you build a business, especially when it's your first business. And the only way to truly learn it is not through reading a book, although that helps, is not from having a mentor, although that helps, is not from watching an inspirational video, although sure, that helps. The best way to learn this stuff is by being in the weeds of it and getting punched in the face over and over and over again and learning from it. And there's things I'm doing with my current business today that I'm sure I hopefully will look back on a year from now, let alone 5 years from now and beyond, where I say, man, that loss I had then helped me to win today. So it's a constant evolution. And if you're growing, then you constantly look back at where you were, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it kind of makes you cringe, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And experience is the only thing that can teach you that.
That's amazing. All right. So we know you're in, keep shifting gears, the cold email space, and that's kind of your niche. Of that world, what is one of your favorite strategies that you're using right now?
Yeah, for me, I've always leveraged cold email to grow all of my businesses. My first tech startup, it was how we got some of those brands you mentioned. The bulk of our big customers, let alone small startups, came from just cold emailing them. It was how I got on the phone with Ajay Banga to get MasterCard as a customer. Ajay Banga, by the way, used to be the CEO of MasterCard. I think he's currently the president of World Bank. It was even how we raised money for that startup and how we ended up finding the company that we sold our startup to. It was how we got the majority of our 100,000 users to sign up for my technology was through cold email. Then as I transitioned from my first business to eventually starting my current agency, email outreach company, I worked on a couple of real estate developments. Cold email was a massive driver that helped me sell out multi-million-dollar real estate developments. And then, of course, shifting gears into my current business, over half of our 180 plus customers that we've worked with since we launched about 4.5 years ago now have come from cold email. And it's, of course, the number one thing we sell with our services to help early stage startups up to big brands like the UFC or Allstate to grow their business. So cold email is more crowded than ever. In some ways, there's a weird dichotomy of it. In one sense, it's easier than ever to get started. But on the other sense, it's more difficult to stand out and get results. So, when we work with our customers, we're big advocates, of course, on doing cold email, but you have to do it right. Because if you don't, you're going to fall into the noise that so many of us marketers fall into. But I'm still a big believer, even though you constantly hear cold email is dead, it's dead, it's dead, that I think it's still the golden age. I think it actually is the golden age of cold email if you can use it effectively.
I'm assuming you're still putting a lot of personality into the scripts and so forth. You're not just letting AI do a work for you, because then the results wouldn't be quite as consistent. I'm assuming you have a lot of hands still in those emails. Am I right?
Yeah, again, with AI, kind of like what I was just sharing earlier, it's the
Yeah.
nice thing is it's so easy to use, but
But
most people use it when the cutting corners way, lazy, and it's just
yep.
a bunch of AI slop we get. So yeah, there's so much on the back end to, of course, use AI because it is a massive tool at our disposal. However, if you don't use it effectively, it's going to be it's worse than just having a bad human email if it comes across a bad AI email because it
Yeah.
feels very lazy.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what I thought your answer was going to be. So let's take a step back. And when the company you have now started getting a little bit bigger, at what point did you start handing things off to a team and form a team? How did you know when it was more than you could handle personally?
For the first 9 months, my business partner and I, because of the scars of my first business, said, we really want this business to drag us. So we don't want to force it. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. If it is, the market will tell us this. So for the first 9 months, we kept our first 3 beta customers, and that was it. We didn't even try to get new business, which, as a sales guy,
Yeah.
that's like, you're like shaking. I want to get new business. Um,
Yeah.
in those 9 months, we did make our first 2 hires, but it was like very minimal work. And man, I remember like being on the couch, like literally answering every single one of these emails for our clients and handling everything. And it was probably when we started year 2 officially, when we realized, hey, let's get some more customers. That's when we had our first batch of hires. Now, in terms of like the weeds work of what we do, I'm not really involved in that, in the weeds of it. The number one thing the 2 areas I've been hesitant to hand off still is, one, sales. So I still lead our sales. And then 2 is our books. I do have help, like a controller and whatnot, in an accounting team, but I've still been hesitant to hand off the finances to somebody else fully. But everything else with the business pretty much runs from a well-oiled machine that we've been able to hire, train, and develop.
So those first hires, were they salespeople or were they hands-on tech people? Like, who were the first hires?
Yeah, they were basically like VAs. So
Got it.
they started to handle the replies that we would get in the inbox because we do everything end to end. So we send the emails, we manage the replies, we book the meetings. So the first hires were folks that were in the inboxes, handling the meetings, booking it with our clients, and doing the back and forth with our customers.
So you probably were hands-on with those emails that you were forming and creating cold emails for quite some time.
Yeah, it's like all the templates, like the body of what we built still
Yeah.
came from, wherever I was in the world at the time, just manually writing it and doing it all yourself. But yeah, you got to do it yourself because, even just when you are hiring people, like if you don't know what goes into doing the work, it's really hard to hold them accountable. Like,
Exactly.
even one of the first people we had to let go of, I knew we had to let go of him because I was just doing his job. So it became very clear that he isn't doing the job because I knew exactly what went into it. But if I wasn't doing that job already, I wouldn't know. So I wouldn't be able to hold him accountable and end up letting go of him and getting the next team member that ended up being a great hire.
As you're making these and sitting down these big companies, I'm not going to say anything new. And this branding and story are huge. So when you sit down with a customer who wants to create cold emails, that story has got to be vital. What does it look like for you? What's the process look like? How do you draw out the things that are important to them to make those emails custom?
The key, whenever we work with a customer, I'm always very open. We are never, ever, ever going to know your business as well as you do. Bottom line, you know your customers. You're talking to them all day, every day. You know your market better than we do. You know your business. You know where you're going. You know all that stuff better than we do. What we know is what works in email. We're sending millions and millions and millions of emails every single month.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to collect some really interesting data on this works really well. This doesn't work well. These types of words elicit good opens. These types of words elicit responses. This length works well, but if it gets longer than this, the results drop. So we're able to collect some really good data on what works in the email world and what doesn't. So the key is always, how do we marry our customers' intimate knowledge of their business and their market with our intimate knowledge of the email world and what works in this world? Because it's not the same. And sometimes the people that know the most about their business And typically this is founders that can be most guilty of this, is they just want to throw up everything about what they do and what makes them so great. And they want to write a 7-paragraph email. And the reality is your own mother isn't going to want to read that, let alone someone who's getting a cold email from you. So you got to take what's important and what actually matters and put it into a highly thought out, well-crafted email that's actually going to convert into what matters most, which is a meeting.
All right. So early days, when you started grabbing those businesses, how did you decide what was going in these emails? Because you said you don't know their business as well as they did. They gave you like a generic description. Like, what decisions did you have to make to form those emails?
Well, I'm a big believer in founder fit. Like whenever I talk to an entrepreneur, like, do you make sense to start this business? And one of the things with this business is I and my co-founder had really good founder fit for the main reason of like, this was what drove our first business. Like we were cold emailing more than just about anybody and getting Bank of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman, Disney, BlackRock as customers from cold email. So we already had a pretty good idea on what worked. And, we're more marketing, sales minded folks. So it was taking what we know works from our past experience, then tweaking it, of course, based on what the results are.
Gotcha. All right. So last answer, you used the word data, collecting data and collecting information. When I use the phrase useful data, what does that mean to you? A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
Well, it's like, there's so much noise out there and like, it's really easy to get in the weeds. And the reality is like, not every data point is relevant. Not every statistic you read online is relevant. Like I remember during my first startup, there was this insanely powerful article that shook up the whole industry. And it was like this definitive statement on the market and where Gen Z students are going. I was like, oh my God, this is huge. Everyone was talking about it. Then dug into the article a little bit, went down to the appendix section. And I saw that this was all based off of a survey of about 15 people.
It's crazy.
People made this definitive statement, like the whole industry is changing. Here is this very important thing for this Gen Z segment. And the whole industry was talking about it. And then when you dig in, it's based off of 15 people. So that's an example. Yeah, it's an example of not useful data. And, data is a great thing, but also you can go into a black hole of just data, and then you start to fall into the inaction bucket of like, you're never taking action. So take data, make sure it's relevant and useful to you, but take action, fail. Mm-hmm. You can have every data point in the world that doesn't guarantee your success. So the best measure of success is positive results. The best way to get positive results is to just keep throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what works.
I think most people, when they have their emails, are so obsessed with open rates, like making sure those open rates are high, but that's not always the biggest factor, I assume.
No, and I tell people in cold email, don't even track opens for 2 reasons. One, it's bad data, to your point. Like opens are so overcounted at this point. So you shouldn't, it's not useful data, number one. And then number 2, it increases the likelihood you go into spam. So if you're cold emailing, that is a lever that's going to put you in spam. And the number one thing in emails, you got to land in the inbox. It's harder than ever. So if you track opens, you're going to go into spam, period.
So I'm assuming you have the formula down pat to keep that thing out of spam. Like, the length, the words, all the different things in your colds to keep that out of spam the best you can, because Google and those bots are just getting better and better at it.
Well, to an extent, but the reality is we're the best we can do is to learn what rules Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Zoho, all these providers, the rules, because they're changing the game, because it's always a cat and mouse game. They're changing the rules of what they allow in the inbox every day. And that's why we surround ourselves too with other leaders in the space, from tech-minded people in the email world to other agency owners. We're in group chats with different leaders in the space, because we're always sharing what we're seeing on the ground floor. Because the reality is there's nowhere to, you don't go on Google and say, hey, what are the cold email rules, like the actual cold email? It doesn't exist anywhere. There's no
No, he's not
playbook.
going to tell you. Yeah.
Right. There's no exact playbook. So you have to do the best you can to understand it. But no, it's always changing. It's always evolving. So what you could do today doesn't necessarily mean you could do it tomorrow.
Gotcha. All right. So you've been at this for a minute or two. You've been doing this for quite some time. Name and talk about a strategy that like you just don't do, waste of time, ROI is not there. You've completely thrown to the side.
The whole bait and switch stuff is just so cringy, where
Yeah.
I get so many emails in my inbox, like still, where it's like, hey, my founder told me to reach out to you. And it's like under the line, it's from the founder saying, hey, reach out to Adam Rosen. He's going to be a great fit. And I'm like, dude, this wasn't good in 2018 when I was getting these emails. It's like definitely not good in 2025, you know, or like selling something in an email that isn't really what your business does just to try to get me on the phone. Where be direct, focus on the problem that they may be facing based on certain signals, present your solution in 1 to 2 sentences max, showcase your social proof, make it easy for people to opt in or opt out. Like, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not interested. Follow up with them enough so that you give them a real chance to take the meeting, but also be respectful of their inbox. But the bait and switch stuff, like don't overcomplicate it. Don't like try to be too cute. It doesn't work. People are sick of that. And it will rub people the wrong way, and it just isn't going to get results, period.
And no Nigerian princes. We're going to cut those out too, I think. None of those anymore.
I'm amazed. I still don't know who falls for that. And it is kind of sad. If you are falling for that, and especially in 2026, I don't know what to tell you.
Some people are, because they keep sending them, so somebody's falling for it.
Yeah.
So with somebody sending the cold email, like what do you tell them in regards to patience? Like how many times should we send something like that? You have that formula down pat. You just went over some of the things that really, really work, the authenticity, the reaching out. Like tell us about patience.
Patience in marketing is everything. Like that's why we typically do a 6-month minimum, because look, if someone says after a week they want to stop working with us, I'd rather just stop working versus to work with someone who doesn't want to work with us, period. But the reason I like doing a 6-month minimum is because you want to give this stuff time. And there's so many people that go into any marketing and expect it to be a home run right away. And sure, that can happen, but in the majority of time, it takes time to get to an email. You know, in the email world, email message fits. So you gotta give things time. We do 1 primary email and 2 follow-ups attached to it. And if we don't get a response, we'll typically throw them into a new campaign about 6 weeks later with a new pitch coming from new infrastructure. But you got to give things time. And I see so many people in marketing pull out before they give it a shot. It's like that. I don't know if it's a meme where it's like that person's like chipping away and they stop chipping when they didn't realize that they just had one more swing of the axe. You would have chipped through and you would have been on the other side.
There's that the book, The Field of Diamonds. Have you read that one? So the guy buys the farm and he's looking for diamonds and he doesn't find any. He sells the farm. Next guy comes in, 3 more shovels, finds all the diamonds. It's a good book. We're gonna wrap up before you have the outro with your business. We're gonna talk about confidence. Let's talk to somebody who is just getting into sales. They're thinking about it, but they really don't feel comfortable with like reaching out to cold. They think they're gonna be bugging people. They're gonna be bothering people. What would you say as far as confidence to take that next step and to start having effective marketing campaigns?
I just said this on a podcast last week, actually.
Nice.
If you don't have the confidence in what you were selling, if you think you are bugging somebody, then you probably aren't in the right business.
That's good.
It's like if you genuinely believe that you have a solution to someone's problem, are you going to hide it from them, or are you going to want to scream on a rooftop, hey, I can help you? So if you genuinely feel like you are bothering somebody by presenting your solution, I would encourage you, if it's not your business, to maybe find another business you really believe in, or if it is your business, to figure out how you can solve a real problem. And look, I know sales can be really tough. Like I said, I still run it for my company. I've been doing it for a long time. I know there's times where you don't want to do some of that hard work, but if you genuinely believe that you have a solution to someone's problem, you shouldn't be shy about sharing it with them, because people like me, I'm sure like you too, Billy, you probably have 27 different things that you want to have solved in your business today. And if you could find the right person to reach out to in a way that showcases they're credible and can actually solve your problem, I'm sure you'd be open to having that conversation. And in fact, want to have those conversations. So we all have problems we want to have solved. And again, if you don't believe in your solution, then there's another job for you.
Yeah, skip out. Go sell Girl Scout cookies or something fun like that. So that way,
Cookies. So that's a
that's
good
right.
too.
That's right. All right, awesome. So we'll do the outro, sir. If you want to talk about your business again one more time, and then where people can get a hold of you, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, we run an email marketing agency. So we do everything from cold outbound, like cold email, even LinkedIn, to nurturing. So we'll build out newsletters for our customers as well, which is more about brand authority, leadership, and nurturing your customers. And then we'll even do some inbound too, whether it's CRM enrichments, CRM optimizations. So many people have like wasted leads in their CRM that they don't engage with. And then even inbound calling when people get calls and the leads drop off. We'll even do some calling with that as well. So we're a full circle email marketing agency. We work with some early stage startups and then some big brands like the UFC or Allstate, where our job is to get them as many high quality appointments as possible.
That's amazing. So most of the time here in our conversation too, you had a lot of authenticity. You didn't say start using AI all the time because that doesn't exactly always convert. Like keep yourself in your business, making sure you're the one that's doing the selling. That seems to be an overarching theme in most of the discussion you've had today.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a time, I'm sure, where AI fully takes over the whole sales process. But until then, humans want to buy from other humans. And anyone listening, don't listen to some of these BS fake sales gurus you see on social media that have probably never sold to a real company in their entire life, that are trying to train you on what to say or do. Just be yourself. Don't be afraid to make mistakes because we all do. There's sales calls I get on today where I get off. I'm like, ugh, that wasn't good. That wasn't my best. And you learn from it, and you need those sometimes.
Yeah.
Kind of humble you and make you realize like you got to trust the art of sales, and you got to. It's a constant battle. It's like the best professional athletes in the world. They are that because it's an everyday craft, and they sometimes will have a day where they throw 3-4 interceptions, and they learn from it and get better from it.
That's amazing. All right, sir. We appreciate your time today. Be sure you go to his website, the services he provides, and the types of clients he works with. Any level of your business, make sure you're reaching out. I appreciate your time today. And I'm going to get working on my emails. I need to craft some emails for this week because I need to get more authentic and more down to earth with them.
I love it. Make it happen. And Billy, it was great chatting with you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.